Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. Welcome to the Cabinet this evening. I'm Councillor Anne Dorian, the Leader of the Council and Chairman of the Cabinet. To my left is Councillor Dale Broughton, the Deputy Leader of Council and Vice Chairman of Cabinet. Before we start, may I remind you all that this evening the meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. Now we'll move to part one of the agenda, the preliminaries. Apologies for absence. Are there any apologies?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Okay. Does any member wish to declare any interest in respect of an item on the agenda? No declarations. Do I have permission to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of July 2024?
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the public received 2 clear working days prior to the meeting?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now we will move to part 2 of the agenda items. The first one is recommendations from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. Are there any for this meeting?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any recommendations from BTAC?
There are none, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Item 3 is the Q1 Performance and Risk Report, which starts on page 9 of the agenda pack. This comes under my portfolio, so I will present this report. So this report contains the key performance indicators for Q1, and that takes us to the end of June 2024. There have been some changes since last year. For example, we have dropped the planning extension measure as it wasn't useful, and we've added in some new measures. We also have some off-log, that's the Office for Local Government. We have some of those off-log measures which are still under development. So in response to comments at the last meeting and comments from scrutiny, we've made improvements to the formatting of the report. So we've split the target and trend measures to make the difference clearer and sorted them by priority. This is explained in the covering report and at the top of the appendices. We have added shading to show how the measures performed in previous quarters to make the trends clearer. Additional commentary has been included for the HR measures to provide more context for absence and turnover of staff. They have also been changed to quarterly measures rather than year to date, so that the trend is easier to track over time. The staff turnover figure itself has been amended to show voluntary turnover. The traditional figure, including fixed term contracts, for example, is still included in the comment. I'm pleased to say the majority of measures are on target. There are 3 red measures, and the commentary provides the context for each of those. And I will go through them now with you. So the first red measure is the occupancy of industrial units. That's at 85.71% against a target of 100%. This actually represents 4 units which were vacant at the end of the quarter, and they are being actively marketed. I'm also pleased to say that is not a long-term situation. These are newly vacant units. The second red measure is SARS requests or subject access requests. So 60% were responded to within timescale against a target of 100%. And this is because of the extensive volume of requests in Q1. And that is being actively managed by the Data Protection Officer. And of course, those SARS requests can come from either members of staff, elected members, or members of the public. The last item that's in the red measure is the housing benefit new claims. The figure for the speed of processing at the end of the month was 30 days against a target of 25 days. However, for June itself, it was 22 days. So this is positive, and we will keep an eye on this in the next quarter. And that is actually a PSPS measure. It's those staff that do the new claims. Regarding the strategic risks, the summary tables show any changes since the last report. And the Partnership Risk Register is currently under review by SLT and is part of the annual partnership joint scrutiny process. The outcome of that review will come forward in Q2. So the recommendation that I am moving is that Cabinet notes the quarterly performance and risk monitoring information for Q1 of 2024-2025. And I need a seconder.
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Broughton. And are there any questions? Paper first. Councillor Broughton.
Not actually a question, more of a just point really. I'm just pleased to see because obviously under my portfolio, the council run occupancy level of the market stalls has increased dramatically over Q1 from 54 to 68%. Hopefully that's all been due to the road closures on a Saturday with no traffic going through, and also the new things we're implementing with different market stores. So I'm pleased to see that's going up.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep, I saw that. I was very, very impressed. Councillor Butler, Callum.
Thank you, Chair. Just a comment again, just to add on to Dale's, Councillor Broughton's comment. It's also pleasing to see that that's up year on year as well, Councillor Broughton. And just to comment on the percentage of car parking income.
What page are you on?
Sorry, page 24. Are you able to explain why the figure is currently for Q1 way over at 104.53% as opposed to last year when it was at 18.65%, please?
I'm going to ask Rob to answer that for me, please. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, thank you, Deidre. Is that okay? Just take the page number again,
24.
Please. 24.
Oh, Sandeep's got an answer, Rob. Do you want to answer? Yeah. Thank you.
This percentage is potential. It's a potential. It's really not achieved yet. So this is as per what you have already achieved. On that basis, that's the potential income we might achieve. So yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think that's quite right. It's given as the achieved amount for Q1. If you look on.
Yeah, Leader, my limited assessment of that is I'm not sure that percentage is presented in the way that we're all interpreting it. I think there's probably a bit of work to do to be a lot clearer on how that's presented.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's certainly what I can say is at the end of Q1 we won't have achieved 104% of our annual car parking budget.
Yeah. Christine?
If I can assist on this, I think what's happened is in that quarter we have achieved 104%, and the reason for that is we did find some prior year income which was booked into Q1. So there is a slight disconnect at the moment between the Q1 position as a result of that prior year adjustment. But at the moment I can report from my latest update of budget monitoring that car parking income is doing very well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Christine. The commentary did say that the income which has been received in April actually relates to 23-24. So that would that could be exactly the reason why that's presented in the way it has. We can double check that and get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, if there's no more questions, the report's been moved and seconded. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, item 4 now is the Q1 finance update, and it starts on page 99 of the supplementary agenda pack. Councillor Ghosh, would you like to present and propose the recommendations, please?
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. This report provides information on the forecast full year financial performance as of 30th of June 24. Madam Chair, I would like to highlight the fact that we will face challenges this year like recent years due to a downturn in the economy impacting our income levels in areas such as building control and planning income. The good news is that this is being offset by higher than anticipated investment income due to the interest rate levels and increased cash balances for now. One more point I want to highlight is that the 24-25 pay award has not yet been announced, but will impact the forecast outturn position if it is greater than the budgeted 3.5%. The allocation of 431,000 in respect of the IDB levy pressure for 24-25, which has now been included within the Q1 forecast and efficiencies table, is a great savior and shows that our effort is lobbying on this matter via the SIG have been worthwhile, but we need to keep lobbying to achieve a more long-term solution. Now about the revenue outturn. The revenue outturn forecast a surplus position of 148,000 at the year end. Some of the key points to consider here is income pressures within planning, building control and cremation income in Q1 is forecast as a combined pressure of £138,000. Regulatory is forecasting an increased demand in assisted burials of 3,000. The council's 24-25 net budget for investment income is £1.6 million. The forecasted full year outturn for investment income as at Q1 is £1.9 million, contributing to an overachievement of £324,000. Table 4 is a new addition you will see from now onwards in quarterly budget reports, which will tell us illustrating additions to the revenue budget as the year progresses through decision notices and delegated decisions. As member will be aware, the 24-25 budget includes a saving efficiency target of £846,000. Savings are being tracked and can be found in table 2. Of the general requirement for efficiency savings of 172,000, we have already achieved 142,000 to date, being 83% at Q1. For both the general and IDB savings requirements, the total efficiency achieved to date is 573,000 against the target of 846,000, being 68% at Q1. This is very positive and the work is ongoing. Regarding the capital, for capital table 5, provide details of all capital schemes. The proposed revised capital budget as at Q1 for the general fund is £35 million. Changes to the capital program are also being tracked with £600,000 identified and detailed in table 5A. Slippage continues to be carefully monitored and considered and budgets refined as we progress through the financial year. Regarding treasury, with regards to the treasury management, the council's cash continues to perform well. Good, that's a good point. With 324,000 forecast to be achieved in excess of budget. I therefore propose that Cabinet approves the recommendation as set out in the report. And the recommendations again are that Cabinet notes the forecast revenue position of £148,000 underspent for 24-25 as detailed in table 1. And the need for continued focus on the savings and efficiency program, that Cabinet approves a reserve transfer of £296,000 into the budget in respect of project funding that has been set aside on the balance sheet for that use, that Cabinet approves a reserve transfer of £260,000 in the capital reserve in respect of a VAT refund received in this year, that Cabinet recommends to full council to amend the capital program at Appendix A, Table 5, to take into account the changes set out in this report. Thank you.
And do you have a seconder? Councillor Baxter seconded. Thank you very much. I'll now open for questions. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you. More comments and questions. So I was pleased on page 1 that we're getting a VAT refund. Probably we could get a few more of those. Looking at page 3 as well, really pleased to read about a further meeting in respect of the IDB business and an opportunity to press for long-term funding solution. As I went through though, looking at page 105, Appendix A, Councillor Gauge mentioned this when it comes to key financial issues. So some of these cover my service area. It mentions planning is forecasting a reduction in planning fee income of 57k. Obviously, talking to the officers concerned, it would only take a big development to obviously pull that back, and it's not something that we can do going knocking on doors and getting the planning applications in. Well, I suppose the same with the cremation income. I mean, we can't stop people from dying, can we? And probably going to South Holland Crematorium. I was going to mention as well the building control fee, underperforming by 42k. Once again, my service area, there is work doing to look at commercialism as well. Obviously, developers can go to self-employed building control inspectors. So looking at bringing that work in-house, and hopefully that will pull back. On to page 110. Councillor Ghost mentioned this is a new table. So as I went through, can I ask a few questions, please?
Of course.
So, you know, the transformation reserve, there's quite a few things there. Is that to do with our efficiency savings, service area by service area? And that's the money being put in towards a project or consultants to bring in efficiency savings?
Yes, I can confirm that is the case.
Okay, thank you, Christy. The other thing I looked at as well, when it says additional homeless income, it mentions a new budget, additional income. Well, for some reason, I thought income, that should be knocked off, but it's added on. So I thought, well, with a lot of the homeless income, it comes from central government. So I wasn't too sure about that entry. If I could probably just ask there, please.
Can I clarify which one you're referring
Yeah,
to?
which page are you on?
You know,
Which
page
table?
111, it's on the left. Well, the second item, additional homeless income, AD wellbeing in communities, a new budget, additional income, 92,670.
So in order to bring it into the budget, it's required to be approved by Cabinet. So that's effectively what this is doing. It's enabling that budget to be enhanced.
Okay.
So remember, some of these are withdrawal from reserves. The ones toward the end are where we're amending the budget because additional income has come in.
Okay, and when it says approval, pro forma B is the form that we've talked about where ADs and portfolio holders sign that offers a budget adjustment.
That's where, and then it has to go through the necessary approval process. So if it's under 50,000, it can come to myself to be approved and I'll consult with Sandeep. If it's over 50,000, it needs to come to Cabinet for you to consider.
So all very watertight as regards the approval
Still
then.
500,000.
That's wonderful. And last question, please.
It's okay.
Page 114. Obviously, as a Cabinet, we're asked to approve the amendments. So table 5A. Well, 300,000 is mentioned disabled facilities grant, and with the approval it mentions to do with case backlogs, reducing waiting times. I thought this was funded by the county council though. I know it mentions funded by grant received in prior years, but if it's all funded by the county council, do we need to include that then as a change to the capital programme?
So if we need to increase our budget, even if somebody else is funding it, we still need to do so. So it's reflecting a change in our capital programme. So if someone else says to us, we'd like you to spend X £100,000, we then need to approve that change within our capital programme, even if it's being externally funded.
Okay, it's just that when you look and you think 300,000, in effect, that can be adjusted later and offset with the income from the county council. No.
No, we are required to increase the budget and the income.
I did try. Thank you. That's the end of my questions. Thank
you, Councillor Baxter. Well done. Councillor Butler, Callum.
Thank you, Chair. Sort of to follow on from Councillor Baxter regarding bereavement and income being 39,000 reduction in fee income for cremations. I know Councillor Baxter says we can't stop people dying. But we can stop people from going to South Holland or to Surfleet or wherever. Is there, you know, I know our facilities are good, but they're starting to get a bit tired. Is there any plans in place to mitigate this with potential upgrades at some point?
I'll invite Sandeep to answer if, or Councillor Broughton might know the answer. Would you like, do you know?
I've actually got that as one of my questions to point out anyway. The reduction in income is mainly down to more people now going along the direct cremation line, which is obviously cheaper. Something we are doing, but again, I do know Martin Potts, who's in charge of the cemetery, is very tight on his budgets and looking after everything. He's a really good officer. But a lot of it's down to direct cremation now, and obviously, like you said, with the different cemeteries and that now doing it, a lot of it's down to the actual funeral directors as well, who they actually, where they go and whatsoever. So, but we are pushing now to try and get more direct cremations into the cemetery as well. So I know Martin is looking at that as we speak. Regarding the refurb, the actual inside of the cemetery has been refurbed fairly recently. We have got the actual the actual cremation machine. We have actually got two cremators. Yeah, we have actually got two working. One of them is getting repaired as we speak. So again, we are looking at that as well.
Thank you. Yes, of course.
Press my button. Thank you, Councillor Broughton. Just something from my own observations, really, that when we've been to family members' funerals, when we've been away, or who lived away, shall we say, a lot of places now have an indoor place where you can congregate after a funeral. So I don't know if this is why I raised this point. It might be an attractive feature to some to be able to congregate under a conservatory or something after, rather than go straight out into the cold and the wet.
Yeah, good point. Any more questions? I just wanted to mention the IDB funding. I think we were exceptionally lucky to get that additional 431,000, and in fact, I think the three councils in our partnership did exceptionally well to get the lion's share of that additional funding from government. The worry is, of course, what's going to happen next year, and I know that you're leading on a very, well, so far quite a successful lobbying campaign with government. Do you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, but again, as you asked about the next year, at this moment, we don't know. That's the plain answer. What's going to happen next year? How much government will give us the grant? We are still striving hard towards it. But again, it's the area where we don't have any answer as of yet, so we cannot answer that.
And do you want to mention the lobbying campaign, the IDP group?
Yeah, we are doing it on 8th of October. I'm going to Westminster. Yeah. Yeah, a couple of points we are going to discuss. We are discussing, we are having meetings with TLAC and everybody. The electricity charges is high, very, very high. We are discussing there also, but no concrete output as of yet, to be honest. So, yeah, we really can't say concretely that, yeah, this is the decision and this is going to happen. We are still striving. Yeah.
Well, I think it's really important we keep this lobbying pressure on government, and I'm really pleased that you're going to Westminster and that you're going to, you know, press hard for a resolution. I know that Christine and James have worked really hard on that as well. So thank you very much for that. Well, if there are no more questions, the the recommendations have been moved and seconded. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Sorry, I scratched my head at the same time, and I wasn't trying to confuse you. Right. So we're on to item 5 now, which is the Local Council Tax Support Scheme consultation. So I just want to emphasise, in case anybody's watching, that we are discussing not what the council tax support scheme will be, but what we are going to consult the public on. We're going to ask the public for their views and their thoughts on how we should support local people in any ways that we can as a local authority. So this is for the consultation scheme for 25-26. And that's the other important thing. This won't be brought in, well, it would be brought in next year if it's successful. Yeah, that's right. I'm confused myself, the dates. But it starts on page 125 of the supplementary agenda pack. And Councillor Gosh, would you like to present and propose the recommendations, please.
Thank you, Chair. By way of background, councils have been required to develop local council tax support schemes to support low-income working-age households since 2013. Prior to this, support was based on a national council tax benefit scheme delivered by councils, but based on rules determined by the central government. The government continues to prescribe the scheme for pensioners who can receive up to 100% support. The council has no discretion in this area. This report focuses on the scheme for working-age claimants. The council is required to review its scheme for working-age claimants each year and consult with major precepting authorities and other persons who may have an interest on the proposals for the forthcoming year. Schemes cannot be changed mid-year. So the current scheme is Boston's current scheme provides a maximum level of support up to 75% for the lowest income working-age claimants, leaving at least 25% of the annual council tax bill to be paid. Scheme expenditure in 24-25 is forecast to be around 4.4 million, with almost 2.2 million of that relating to working-age claimants. The cost of the CTS scheme is shared between the major precepting authorities as shown at section 2.3 in the report, with this council picking up around 10.3% only. Cabinet agreed to fundamentally review the scheme in 24-25, recognizing that the current scheme is now dated. Objectives include modernization and simplification for the customer and to improve operational efficiency. Any final CTS scheme must be affordable, and in reaching decisions, there must be consideration as to how it will be funded. This extensive review, supported by the appointment of Visionary Network Limited and its partners, has considered different scheme approaches and analysis and data modeling based on current caseload and expenditure. Section 4 of the report provides a breakdown of the current working age caseload by household type. Table 2 in section 4.3 provides a view of the number of current CTS recipients with arrears in the last financial year 23-24. The data reveals that over 30% of current working age CTS recipients have council tax arrears in the previous financial year. Almost 55% of those in arrears are in households with children. Proposals for 25-26 scheme consultation. The outcome of the review leads to the set of modification proposals shown in section 6 of this report. I will not read all of those options out as members will have had the opportunity to read the report ahead of this meeting. These will make the scheme more generous, offering enhanced protection for vulnerable families. It also provides the opportunity for administration efficiency through streamlining of processes. As an incremental approach to change, it will allow for review after the first full year of the new scheme. Having regard to the arrears position for households with children and a recent DWP report which estimates 30% of the children in Boston live in relative low-income households, Section 6.3 option A in the report sets out two options to increase the maximum level of support for households with children, demonstrating the council's commitment to respond positively to concerns over child poverty. There will be an increased cost as a result of this change. However, a combination of the options shown in section 6 would provide some offset and improve administrative efficiency. Depending on the options this cabinet decides, the net increased scheme cost is estimated to be between £78,000 to £384,000. In any scheme, there may be hardship cases. The introduction of a discretionary exceptional hardship payment fund, option G, would allow additional short-term assistance in exceptional cases and provide signposting to other sources of help and support for maximizing income. Subject to Cabinet agreeing tonight to include this option for consultation, over the next few weeks, further work will be carried out to develop how the scheme would operate in practice and who it would seek to support. The options decided by Cabinet tonight will go into consultation as required by legislation, including major perceptors who will share the cost of any increase. This council will pick up around 10% of the total cost. However, Cabinet should note that this council will pick up the full cost in relation to option G, which is exceptional hardship. Turning to the recommendations, Cabinet is asked to consider the modification options set out in section 6 of the report and confirm which of these it wishes to consult on, and to delegate approval for the consultation exercise to the section 151 officer in conjunction with myself as a portfolio holder finance. So members are kindly reminded, this is not about deciding the final scheme. A further report, including the response to consultation, will be brought back to Cabinet following consultation for it to make its final recommendation to full council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Sandeep. Well done. Now I'll open it. Oh, sorry. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Creswell. Thank you, Emma. And I'll now open it to questions. And I'll start with you, Councillor Creswell.
Thank you very much. I think this is really, really important. And I think for stealing Councillor Baxter's thunder, I think it was a really good report to read. And I particularly like on 6.1, which is page 129. I like that this has been developed through preferences expressed by members, and I think that's really important that members' views have been taken into account through the meetings we've had leading up to the report. So I think that's really, really good. I really like that we've talked specifically, as again in 6.1, about households which have a disability. I think that's really, really crucial in our area, that we consider that. And likewise with the discretionary bursaries, I think they're really, really useful. And I think the officers I work with would really, really embrace that. And also something 6.2 we've talked about a lot, and we've talked about the care leavers, and care leavers is mentioned there. I think before we discussed it was care leavers up until their 25th birthday, but I couldn't see that in there. So I just wondered if that was to be added or if it was somewhere else and I've just missed it.
No, I think it because we're not recommending that we consult on that. We've made that decision and that decision continues on. So we're not consulting on that. Does that sound right, Sharon? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Emma. Councillor Baxter, John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I've been part of this group, so I'd like to say thank you to all the people involved, Sharon, Christine, Sean, and the members involved. You can see from the report, we've gone back and got loads of data to do with our residents and the groups of people involved here. I think it's important probably for the people watching, this doesn't cover pension age residents, as Councillor Ghosh mentioned, that's covered by national rules. So the first thing I was going to ask, and probably this is what people will think, we've talked about, there's tables to do with the costs. Can I just ask, this isn't sort of budget related, is it? Whatever option is chosen, obviously we only pay a percentage as the Borough Council, but there's no big budget restraints on this new scheme, is there?
I'm sorry, I'm not entirely sure what you mean.
Well, say for example, on page 131, it mentions the costs. So we haven't set a budget, have we, of say 25,000. So we're open to suggestions and we're being quite generous by not putting budgetary restraints on. And I think it's very important as well, as Councillor Creswell mentioned, we've concentrated on the people that need help at a time and when the cost of living is hitting everyone. I was going to mention with the recommendations on page 126, it does mention then that you can confirm the option with an S it wishes to consult on. So the options are listed on page 130 and 31. If the Cabinet agreed then, could they offer that to our residents and they decide the options, if you know what I mean? I mean, we can give guidance, but is that, when it mentions confirms the option.
Sorry, which line are you on?
Page 126 at the top. It's a recommendation. Yeah. So could we open that to a consultation process, or do you think that would be too complicated and confusing?
So members Cabinet needs to decide whether or not it's consulting on both options or one option. And when it consults on it, it'll be with all parties. It won't just be residents. It'll also be the precepting bodies as well. So the decision in front of members is really whether or not to consult on one or both options that are in front of you.
Thank you.
That's what we're going to decide tonight. Yeah.
So the other thing as well that was highlighted, having worked in this field in the past, it's very complicated. Sometimes you get 50 council tax bills come through the door to do with adjustments. So I think it's really good as well on page 133, the conclusion. It mentions that The options proposed are they provide a balance of recognising the need for increasing support for families and the need for administration simplification. And that's mentioned with the non-debt deductions, the change to capital rules. So I think this is a very comprehensive report, just a case of deciding, well, which option really. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, John. Well done. And Christine, we're going to choose between the options at section 6.3, where there's 2, but we're going to decide on consulting on everything else as well. Yeah, just double checking. I've got that right. Thank you. Any more questions or comments? I'd just like to say that I think it's been a focus of this administration that we're very cognizant of the fact that many of our residents live in hardship or poverty of some description, whether that be financial or fuel or food. And we are very, very aware, especially of the children in our community who live in poverty. And this is one way that Councillor Ghosh felt that we could address the issues of child poverty, which have risen to, I think, 30% at the latest figures. So imagine 30%, 3 out of every 10 children that sit in a classroom are living in poverty. So this is one way that we can help those families, a tiny, tiny little bit. This is by no means going to solve all their hardship problems, but it shows, I think, the public the kind of administration we are and what we're trying to achieve here. So if we go through, if there's no more questions, then we'll take the report chronologically. We'll just start at page 130. We'll start with 6.3, section A, where we're going to decide, do we want to just consult the public on, and don't forget, either keep this scheme the same or we make a modification. That's what we're asking the public. Do we want to include both options, or just the first one, or just the second one? I would actually propose that we consult the public on section 6.3.81, that we consult only on increasing the maximum amount of support to households with children to 100% and 85% for other households. So I would move that. Is there a seconder? Oh, right.
Happy to second.
Okay, so Broughton. Okay, so should I do it? Can someone guide me? Should I do it incrementally, or?
As you've separated that one already and you've got a proposer and a seconder, I suggest you take that one. The rest tend to go as a block.
Okay.
So you may then wish to take the rest all on block.
Okay, good. Thank you. So that was moved and seconded. Is there anybody would like to comment on that, or? Yeah, John?
Yeah, I was just going to mention something probably we haven't touched on, to have the worry of a council tax summons and arrears and everything. Hopefully by us helping as regards more council tax support, that will help as well our council tax arrears and the worries that people have, and make it more affordable so they can actually pay their council tax. Thank you.
Well, hopefully the public will respond in a positive way and want to support this this recommendation. So all those in favour of just taking that one item and rather than 2 to consultation? All those against? Thank you. So that was clearly carried. The rest of the items, we don't need to go through them all. You've all had the papers to read, so we'll take them on block. The rest of the items from B, we've no other decisions to make on separating anything out, have we? From B through to H. Has Sandeep already moved it? No.
But it wasn't seconded.
Considers the modification. No, it was seconded. Emma seconded it. So we've just picked that one out. We confirmed the options that we wish to consult on. So yeah, the rest of the come in on that, don't they? Yeah. And we approve the consultation and delegates the oversight on that to the section 151 in conjunction with the portfolio holder for finance. You want to come in, Rob?
Well, just help if I can. I mean, I think you can approve the recommendations on block, but acknowledge that recommendation 2 you've modified to make it clear that you only want to consult an option A1. And I think that way you can just have a single vote.
Okay, all right. So all those in favour? All those against? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 6 now is working in partnership with the voluntary and community sector. And the report starts on page 55 of the main agenda pack. Councillor Creswell, would you like to present and propose a recommendation? Thank you, Sharon.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Madam Chair. As Boston Borough Council and as the South and East Lincolnshire Council's partnership, we recognise the important work of the voluntary and community sector within the area. This includes supporting the communities in South and East Lincolnshire to lead longer, safer and healthier lives. The communities themselves also have a lot to offer in respect to playing an active volunteering role in the locality, with volunteering showing both positive physical and mental health benefits to individuals and communities. First and foremost, this report provides an overview of activity over the past year that has been supported and further developed by the South and East Lincolnshire Council partnerships. Notable achievements include working with Lincolnshire Community Foundation through the Household Support Fund, the valuable support and assistance of Citizens Advice Midlinks that provide for our residents, setting up a South and East Lincolnshire Trusted Volunteer Scheme, which has been funded through the UK SPF. As our valuable work with the VCS continues, a volunteer charter has been created to underpin good relations with our volunteers. This can be found on page 65 of your agenda pack. Finally, to ensure strong performance that meets the best outcomes for our communities, this report seeks approval to move from a grant-giving model to a commissioned-based service model where appropriate. The recommendations of this report can be found on page 56 for your review. I'm happy to take any questions if you're happy to read those recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, and do you have a seconder? Councillor Sharp, thank you, Sarah. And we'll take any questions now. Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having been involved in lots of community work and voluntary organisations, I welcome this report, but just wanted to raise a few questions on page 56 as part of the recommendations. Paragraph 4 mentions about a transition from a grant giving to VCS organisations and move to a commission services model that meets the aims and objectives of the partnership. I've been involved in bidding for grants, and obviously I take on board what that means, but I wondered if, well, for worthy causes and communities which rely on funding from the council, whether that might put off organisations actually applying for the money. So I would just thought I'd mention that as a mention point, so to speak. Please.
Do you want to come back on that? Yeah, thank you, Councillor. You want to put your microphone off, John? Thank you.
Okay, so historically, grants are provided to what we perceive as worthy organisations, but it means that the public money, we can't necessarily see measurable outputs and outcomes associated with it. So the idea is that if we had a commission service, we would be able to see the outputs more and outcomes more measurably, and it would make it more of a fair and open, transparent way for communities or groups in the community to actually put forward a worthy cause that then we can offer the money to. I don't know if you want it so that we're ensuring value for money in the community, and the people who are bidding and wanting grants are actually commissioning money, are actually sure that they are worthy of a worthy cause. So,
yeah, thank you. And Councillor, oh yeah, you got more questions.
Thank you, Councillor Creswell. I obviously, as I read this, I relate to our work in Old Leek and Wrangle. As a rural community area, we rely on the hub and the bread and butter thing, and also various activities. So as I read through, obviously, I'm trying to think how that work in practice. You will know our older people in communities now who used to do all the voluntary work, unfortunately, are getting older. So there's not an income of volunteers. Younger people aren't taking over. It puts at risk what we do in our rural communities. So I looked at page 60, paragraph 3.8. So I understand the volunteer coordinator's role. It mentions there a lot about volunteering interest for council-related activities. So say, for example, the Old Leek Hub, it's run by a local group. I know the council are involved and help with the bread and butter thing, but in practice then, say, for example, Old Leek or Wrangle and now parish halls, we needed some volunteers. How would we link in? Because it mentions that it links in with volunteering opportunities with LCVS. So I just wondered, thinking about it in practice, if we needed volunteers, how do we come to the volunteer coordinator to fix that up, please? Thank you.
Okay.
So I think you'd need to, correct me if I'm wrong, you'd need to come through to our communities officer. I can't remember her official title, sorry.
That's okay. Absolutely. She's our volunteer coordinator.
Yeah, so they would be directed to come through to our volunteer coordinator, and through her she would be able to direct the right people to who might be suitable for your activity that you need volunteers for. And I imagine that going forward she will match the most appropriate volunteers, either the way they're trained or their specialist interests, to what you need.
Thank you. And just to mention a big thank you to Nicola Holderness, who has always been helpful and arranged that somebody's coming down to talk to us. So thank you, Councillor Creswell.
Thank you, John. Councillor Sharp, Sarah. Oh, sorry. Do you want to come in, Emily? Yeah, of course.
Thank you. Sorry, Madam
That's
Chair.
all right.
I just wanted to add as well, in your previous report that you had on our performance, we're now starting to record the number of volunteers that we're attracting through this scheme. And I'm pleased to say that in Q1, we've had 17 volunteers that are now part of the scheme. And a good many of those are through Boston Cadets. Now, forgive me, but I think they're probably young people that are very keen to volunteer in the Boston area. So again, we are seeing people of all ages coming and being attracted through this scheme, which is very exciting for us.
Thank you. And John, you want to come in?
Yeah, just to confirm that through this scheme, we're not looking to replace the services of our local infrastructure organisation, LCVS. They still will be there providing support to local communities. It's in addition to that, we'll have our own volunteer coordinator, which is great. Their focus will be around council services, opportunities within our own council area across the partnership, but they'll also link into LCVS as well, just to provide that reassurance, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Sharp, Sarah.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I fully support this scheme. I think it's really wonderful that we're doing this. And not only is it good for mental and physical benefits, it's going to help young people with their CV. And, you know, when they go for a job and it says previous experience required, they're going to have that on there. And also, will it help children who want to do Duke of Edinburgh and the service element there as well? So, yeah, fully support it. Thank you.
Great points there. Yeah. Dale, Councillor Broad.
Yeah, again, I fully support this project. And also, I'd just like to point out that I have had 2 meetings with the new volunteer coordinator, Alison. She's very knowledgeable, has hit the ground running. We're working on a project for Central Park as well, and she's liaising with the South Holland counterpart. But she is a very, very knowledgeable lady and is very, very keen on these projects. So she's done a very good job in a very short space of time already.
Good. That's good to hear. Councillor Butler, Callum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to add that I think it's a very good thing that we're going to do the Trusted Volunteer Scheme, because it means that we're taking the safety of the volunteers seriously as well, because some of them aren't necessarily the most safe as they should be, and through this it will obviously make them everything safer than what they're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a great point you've raised. I'd like to say a few words that I'm really pleased that you brought this forward, Emma. Thank you so much for all the work you and your officers have done on this. And not forgetting that this was one of our manifesto promises that we would improve the recognition and the participation around volunteering. And when I was the mayor a couple of years ago, I had a volunteer evening in the Stump, a kind of a reward evening, just to recognise all the sterling work and the thousands upon thousands of hours that volunteers do in our community. Emily came and spoke at that evening, and the church was heaving with volunteers. It was a really special place, and so I think it's important that we're able to capture all that, because those people are the essence of our community. They really are the good in our community. We need to celebrate it, recognise it, and encourage it wherever possible. Especially as Councillor Baxter raised the point that some volunteers, as they get older, aren't able to commit as many hours. So we need that throughput. We need, and as Sarah says, we need to be encouraging young people for all kinds of reasons to give something back to their community. So I can find no bad in this at all. Thank you for bringing it forward. So it's been moved, and was it seconded? It was seconded. Yeah, my memory's shot. We'll go to the vote then. All those in favour? That's clearly carried. Thank you very much. Well done. So, agenda item 7 is the Public Spaces Protection Order, wild bird feeding controls in designated areas of Boston Town Centre. And this is a report which has come forward under my portfolio, and it starts on page 67 of the agenda pack, and I will present the report. Now, this has come forward because actually, when I was out on a volunteering mission, back at the big, what do you call it? The big litter pick, something like that. The big cleanup, Boston Big Cleanup. Some members of the public approached me, other volunteers, I have to say, to complain about the damage that the pigeons were causing the Stump. And they shared their worries about the fabric of the building and about the unnecessary damage that was being incurred. So that was the genesis of how this report came about. And I came back and spoke to officers about it and decided that we would bring forward a paper. So the feeding of wild birds in the town centre is leading to damage and fouling of the public realm, its buildings and our heritage sites, and it's having a detrimental impact on the cleanliness of the pavements and street furniture, and it actually exposes the public to potential health risks. Now, there is currently no law specifically available to stop someone feeding wild birds. However, and can I just say, we're talking about feral pigeons. We're not talking about racing pigeons that people keep as a hobby. These are the wild pigeons, which are as bad as rats or grey squirrels, actually, I think. So there's no a specific law available, but the Antisocial Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act gives us, as a local authority, discretion to make a Public Spaces Protection Order, PSPO, where there is a particular nuisance or problem, and it has to be within a specific area if it's going to be detrimental to the local community's quality of life. So a local authority, if we want to take this forward, we must consult the public before determining whether or not to make an order. And our public consultation was conducted from the 1st of May to the 31st of July this year. The consultation responses are in your pack. They indicated that 82% of respondents considered there was a problem with bird feeding in certain locations in the town, and 86 of our respondents would support the council taking enforcement action. So the full report, including all the comments, is attached at Appendix A. Now, the matter was then taken forward to scrutiny. I didn't welcome Councillor Cantwell. I'm so sorry about that, Councillor Cantwell, but he's in the gallery this evening. I don't know if you're on EMP, Councillor Cantwell, but it's no, so you can't comment on that. But scrutiny looked at it, and overall, that was done on the 5th of September 24. Overall, scrutiny members were in favour of introducing a PSPO, and draft minutes from that meeting are Appendix D in the report. Now, should Cabinet approve the making of a PSPO, the draft order is attached to Appendix B, and the designated area is outlined in red on the plan, and that's Appendix C. I think basically it's exactly the same footprint as the alcohol PSPO, is that right?
I'm not sure, to be certain. I'd have to look at the extent of that. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that tonight.
Okay, we can confirm that. I'm almost certain it is. There is one single offence specified in the PSPO breach, which is enforceable via fixed penalty notice, limited by statute to £100. If Cabinet approved the PSPO tonight, an extensive public information campaign will follow over the next 3 months. We don't want to be creeping up behind people saying, gotcha, gotcha, when they've been completely unaware. So it's really important we get that public information campaign correct. And that will be done in advance of any penalty notices being issued. Okay, and already up until now, we've actually had signs around the area that's most problematic near the stump, near the Ingram Memorial. We've had little signs made up discouraging the feeding of birds. They've just been graphics, no words. And our town rangers have also taken the time when they can to inform the public that this was something the council were looking at. So the recommendation before us this evening is that Cabinet consider the feedback from the Environment and Performance Committee and approve the making of a public space protection order to implement wild bird feeding controls in designated areas of Boston Town Centre. And I would look for a seconder. Councillor Butler, thank you, Callum. And now I'll open it to any questions. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Chair. Fully support this, and obviously had the pleasure of presenting this at the Environment and Performance Committee. At that committee, Councillor Marsden raised a point about the fine level, and I just think it's worth, and that she was worried that £100 fine for feeding birds, I think in her words, to fining Doris, 89-year-old Doris. She was concerned that it was a lot of money just for chucking a bit of bread down. But unfortunately, as it says here, the rate for the FPN served under a PSPO is prescribed in legislation at £100. So there's no way that the council can alter that fine level. And I just wanted to raise that point.
Yeah, thank you. I did read the minutes of the meeting, and I do appreciate Councillor Marsden's concerns. I also happen to think Councillor Marsden might be a bird feeder herself. I seem to recall reading that on Facebook somewhere, but I fully appreciate her concerns, and I will make sure that I reassure her that, like I just said a few moments ago, we're not out to be creeping up behind people and saying gotcha. That's not what it's about. I would seriously encourage that this two things. The public information campaign is quite intense, and that people certainly get to know about it, but B, that we take a level-headed approach to the introduction of this. Like the first 3 months will be no fines issued, and then taking it forward, we would want anybody that's in the town centre to be perhaps approached by a ranger or perhaps one of us, or anybody that sees somebody feeding birds, saying a quiet word to say, did you realise that this is now part of a PSPO? So I would like to take a common sense approach, Callum, but we do have to start somewhere. Yes, John.
Just to come in with a quick comparison of the maps, if you look at the proposed bird order, that for obvious reasons includes the entirety of around the stump area. The alcohol PSPO doesn't.
Oh, right.
So that gives you a simple assessment. There's more detail, but that gives you a simple assessment on that.
Thank you very much, John. Thanks for looking that up. Emma, Councillor Creswell, then Councillor Baxter.
Okay, thank you. Just to confirm, I think you're talking about the enforcement, the campaign. I think it's really important that actually we're not actually saying this is going to commence until the 1st of January. So there is a long time before this is, there's plenty of time, like you say, for us to talk about it to people. And I also think on page 72.6, when you spoke about signage and talking about the signs, integrating them with the no alcohol, I think that's really important. And I also think your description, Leader, when you spoke about the visuals, I think that's so important in our town for those residents who are struggling to understand maybe a lot of signage, a lot of information. I think those visuals are really, really important, and I think quite impactful. So
Absolutely agree. The pictorial signs without any words, basically anyone can understand. And I think you're right on the public information campaign, Callum, as you just said, you very kindly presented this report to TMP when I was on holiday, and I did see the press that you got afterwards. It was incredible. There was a lot of press coverage, and the press have a role to play. Our comms officers kindly joined us tonight, and I'm sure that we will continue to strive to get the message out and enlist help where we can. Thank you, Emma. So, Councillor Baxter, John.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with this recommendation. As I read through all the documentation, I thought to myself, well, as a council, we would say we would consult our residents, but also we would follow the governance procedures and pass it through our scrutiny. How amazing then that we have 16 pages of feedback that have been taken into account, very detailed. Everybody has been listened to. I think it's important, as well as we've touched on, the education of people in different languages and signs. And I think it's fantastic we're having a trial period. We've also looked at the areas covered, and that's still quite open, and also the enforcement. So I support this recommendation and thank everybody who's been involved.
Oh, thank you very much, John. That's really kind. I think that when we think about the Ingram Memorial and how it's such an attractive area, and it's right next to the stump, there couldn't be a worse seating area really for feeding birds because it's so close to the stump, and that is, I think, our most important heritage asset. Well, Sarah's given me the side eye. Next to the Guildhall, they're almost level pegging. Sorry, Sarah. Dale, do you want to come in?
Yeah, again, I totally agree with this PSPO proposal. As town centre portfolio holder, part of our town centre strategy was to obviously keep the town centre clean and tidy. I know recently BTAC operatives spent a total of 12 hours just cleaning one side lane. Their time could be more valuably spent doing other cleaning areas. I'd just like to highlight as well, page 82, the fourth bullet point down, constant cleaning required to protect historic fabric, obviously like the Guildhall and the stump of that, but also people visiting the town, commented on the impact of the vast number of birds. Well, we're trying desperately hard to get more footfall into the town. So obviously when people visiting, possibly for the first time, are making this comment, if we can get all the birds stop doing this, all the cleaning, tidier, we're going to get a lot more footfall through from visitors coming to the town saying how nice it is and that. Because I know through talking to the BTAC operatives, the hard work they're doing in cleaning the benches, the pathways and everything, and that time could be a lot better spent in other places. So I totally support this.
Thank you. Sarah, then Sandeep.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully support it too. We're not saying don't feed the birds. There's plenty of other opportunities to feed the birds out of town. In fact, we are the only town in the UK that has 8 country parks within 5 miles of our town. So there's plenty of opportunities there. And we also are blessed to have such amazing history, such amazing heritage, and our buildings need preserving. I know it's been spoken about our cultural quarter meetings, about the cost to the stump for cleaning that building, and they could put that money to much better use. And as Councillor Broughton said, the money it's costing the council to keep areas clean as well. So yeah, not saying don't feed them, but just go out of town, please.
Thank you. Very wise words. Sandy, Councillor.
Yeah, I absolutely support this recommendation. Obviously, it saves a lot of money, time, and keep the city clean. But only one point I want to mention is we just discussed about the council tax support scheme, and if somebody from that scheme have to pay £100 fine, do we have any plans for that? How we are going to get that money?
I think you're way off piece there, if I'm being honest, Sandeep. Yeah. I think you've leapt so far ahead. You know, if we make it that, you know, you can't. If somebody comes forward saying, I want to take money out of the hardship fund because I've got a speeding fine, we wouldn't entertain that, would we? You've got a speeding fine because you've done something wrong. So if you get a fine for feeding the birds, it's because you've done something wrong.
Yeah, okay. I'm not saying that how they will pay. I'm saying how we achieve, like, get that money back. Like, obviously they cannot pay that money. So is there any plans for that or processes?
Yeah, you want to see that, Rob?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the council will levy fees, charges, as Councillor Ghosh will be aware, for many different things, and clearly the individual who has to pay those will all have very varying financial circumstances. When we go through recovery processes, we give people time to pay. We direct them to where they can get support, and we work flexibly with them to recover debts. Now, I'm sure the staff will do that on these fines as well.
I'm sorry, I completely misunderstood your question there. Yes, we have recovery processes, and we signpost people to citizens' advice. We give them extra time, extend the period where they can pay the fine, etc., etc. There's a myriad of ways that we support people to do the civic duty.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to hear. Actually. Thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood you there. Sorry. Any more questions or comments? No, it's been moved and seconded, and we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Clearly carried unanimously. Thank you all very much. And item 8, the last item on tonight's agenda, is the alignment of case management systems across the South and East Lincolnshire Councils Partnership. That report starts on page 93 of the agenda pack. Councillor Ghosh, would you like to present the report and move your recommendation?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The South and East Lincolnshire Councils Partnership can save money and increase efficiency through the sharing of services and systems. The latter is a key focus of our approval digital strategy and recognized as an opportunity in the partnership's initial business case. This report brings forward a business case that seeks to secure the funding to align the multiple case management systems in place in the planning and regulatory directorates in Boston and South Holland to the uniform system currently being deployed at East Lindsey District Council. To deliver this project, an investment of £340,000 is required from this council and would be funded as detailed in paragraph 2.8. This sum includes a 10% contingency for the project and additional temporary staffing, 2 full-time employees to support the project's delivery. At present, this council spends £61,000 per annum on its case management system that supports regulatory services and planning. By sharing uniform with East Lindsey, this sum will drop to £12,700. In addition, the alignment will unlock a further £340,000 in service review efficiencies in regularly services and planning. Boston will benefit from $78,200 of this. Whilst there is an initial investment to take this project forward, once delivered, we will release savings from year 3 as set out in the table as 2.7. So I would ask Cabinet colleagues to support this important project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Creswell, seconded, and I'll open it for any questions. Councillor Baxter.
These are more comments than questions, Madam Chair. So I agree with the recommendations, especially looking at the reasons. This delivers efficiency savings in an environment and climate. We're obviously looking for more efficiency savings, and also the alignment. On page 95, it lists the functions. Most of these are within my portfolio. The planning, the building control, enforcement, housing standards, and disabled facility grants. Talking to the staff, that they move them in between the sites and everything. This has been a major hurdle, really, as regards them all having different systems. So aligning them together will help the service reviews. It will mean more flexibility. So I back this recommendation 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more comments or questions? Councillor Butler, Callum.
Just to add to what Councillor Baxter said, really, I think it's vital that we do this work. It will streamline all our services and just make it so much easier. I do appreciate that maybe nobody likes change, so we say to the staff may find differences with each different software, but I'm sure they'll soon get used to it and will adapt.
Okay. I think this is clearly an investor save project. It makes sound business sense, makes sound financial sense. And yeah, I'm pleased that you brought this forward. Thank you. So all that being said, no more comments or questions. We'll move to the vote. All those in favour? Clearly carried. Thank you very much. And that concludes our cabinet meeting for this evening. We'll just wait now to come offline. Thank you, everyone.